You getting some next in? Okay. I have Evie here to join me for a video about the blockchain, so hopefully that was enough to lure you in here and get you to stay. um, if you've been following me on Twitter or just know me at all, you know kind of my position on the whole blockchain games, NFTs and games debate, but I did kind of want to make a video that focuses on that in particular. I've made a couple metaverse videos, which are sort of blockchain adjacent, and that seems to be like something people enjoy discussing. So I thought I would wade into the kind of blockchain NFT debate here. Um, I think it's a more complicated issue than just constantly dunking on NFTs and things that I do on Twitter. um, so looking towards the future here, I see a much, much rougher, worse path than all of these crypto NFT evangelists, and yet I do not think it is an industry that can just be like totally dismissed out of hand for any reason. But I do not think it is quite the future in the way all these people are envisioning. So, the way I see it, there are three main categories of how we're going to see the blockchain NFTs invade the gaming space over the next few years here, decade, I don't know, whatever. We'll see. The first is just kind of the genre of blockchain games in general. These are games that are kind of built up, like built from the ground up to be made using the blockchain, to use blockchain assets and NFTs and things like that as a core part of the game. Then is a linked category of games that exist already that are just going to be kind of inserting NFT experiments into them. We've already seen this a few times. The most obvious example of this is the Ghost Recon Breakpoint NFTs, where they just made a couple blockchain-based pieces of armor that people could claim. And then the other half of that, the third thing, is things that kind of already exist in that space to a certain extent. This is a pretty narrow selection of things in that an existing franchise where NFTs seem like maybe less totally insane or have the at least mild potential to work, and that is something I'm mostly classifying as things like EA's Ultimate Team. Not saying it will, but I kind of want to go through these. So first, we'll just start with blockchain games in general, and this is what I am, I'm not going to say optimistic. I think this will be something that will be around for a good amount of time. It is a very, very small market right now. There have been all of these, New York Times, Wall Street Journal, Forbes articles about these blockchain games and like their valuation for metaverse land grabs, and then games like Axie Infinity, where like people in the Philippines are playing it and grinding out tokens to like pay for food because there's no jobs and things like that. And this is kind of held up as the beacon of the potential of blockchain games. To me, this niche will continue to exist and it will expand. I think it will expand very slowly and it will not kind of blow up like a rocket ship the way people are envisioning. And what I see happening with these games is they will attract more crypto people to them or non-gamers to them than they will make converts out of existing gamers. I think there is maybe some small amount of overlap between like hardcore gamers and someone who would play like a wholly blockchain based game, but in its current form, like I have tried. I was thinking about just going to play Axie Infinity to just at least get a sense of what this thing is, to get a little bit deeper into it, and like I couldn't do it. Like I got to the page and I'm reading about it. Fundamentally, gameplay is essentially you are buying these little blobs that act as the whole game is like just like an idol hero type game where you have your little upgraded person. It fights monsters like in an auto battle system, and then you can move on to more monsters, like things like that. You upgrade and make your Axie thing more valuable, but starting the game requires you to just buy one of these for real money, whereas obviously a game like Clicker Heroes or Idle Heroes or something is usually going to be just free. But I think the minimum price I saw was $50 for one of these things, and I don't know if there's like a minimum. I thought there used to be a minimum you had to buy three of them or something. So like, it's a steep investment up front, with the promise of like, okay, maybe I think is it the love potion? I forget what the token or whatever is called, but like that it may appreciate, and whatever you invest will grow and grow and grow, and you'll have made, the time you've spent in this game will be valuable because you have built up this currency. as a grind, like as a way to make money, like sure, maybe this is something that does not exist in other games, and yet I feel like the vast majority of gamers have no real interest in turning games they enjoy into something that resembles, more of a job, and a pretty boring job at that, like judging by the state of this gameplay. This already like exists just without the blockchain. Like we have obviously, you know, had a market where there's like item farmers or World of Warcraft gold farmers or things like that, where like you could do that if you wanted to in those games, and there is like an exchange rate somewhere for a lot of in-game currencies you can grind out, but people aren't like doing that and enjoying it. They're doing it kind of because they have to. And we have not really seen any of these blockchain games like kind of integrate fun actual gameplay. Like this is a genuinely fun game to play because they're so focused on the market, they're so focused on the economy, so focused on tokens and making sure your time investment is going to yield some sort of cash reward. And where it's the game itself is the market. Like it's not focused on the game in any sense that I can see. And like if Axie Infinity is one of like the more advanced versions of this, that's not a great sign. And like there's all these things in the works of different games coming up. So it's so new that it's kind of hard to fully judge what else will come to the scene. But I am deeply skeptical that this will attract more kind of core gamers who are used to games that are way more fun and like no, even if you're not, grinding out some sort of token that hopefully you can cash out in a couple months or a couple years or whatever, so you have something left for your time. There's nothing to say that that will actually happen because this is so new. I do not think that is something that is going to appeal to most gamers, but it may appeal to the crypto crowd itself. So if the market grows, I think it would be on the back of these, hyper zealot crypto enthusiasts, not necessarily like gamers making the conversion over. Like blockchain gaming makes kind of VR look like, the true future by comparison, or like the next big thing, because like I think you can make a much more of a case for VR in terms of like, okay, I can make a pitch of like, I am experiencing games in a new way playing VR. I personally don't like VR as much as traditional PC or console gameplay, but I understand the differences. I understand kind of the logical progression of where things are going. Blockchain games, it's much less clear. It just seems like you are making fundamentally like flash games that cost a lot of upfront money to play, that are not going to be as fun mechanically at all as existing games, and the appeal is supposed to be that you're earning some sort of money. So that is, I think, going to be a hard case to make. Moving on to the second form of things, the NFTs that are just being kind of utterly roasted by everybody, including me. This is NFTs kind of being integrated into existing games where they have either no place or it just makes no sense for that to happen. We are kind of seeing lines drawn in the sand here between companies that are saying they are going to do stuff with NFTs and blockchain and companies that aren't. Steam has already banned blockchain and NFT games. Epic has said they're open to it. Bungie has made it very clear that they're not doing things with NFTs or the blockchain. I think Gearbox said they're not doing anything like that in Borderlands. But then we have statements coming out from EA and Square Enix about how, blockchain is an important part of the future and we're looking at all these things for NFTs and blah, blah, blah. So again, I think it's split between different types of games. I made a thread yesterday imagining kind of a thought experiment of like if one of my guns from Destiny was a NFT. And I kind of go through all the arguments that like are supposed to be the benefit of NFTs, and none of them work. I'm not going to go through the whole thread again, but it's essentially you can't just turn existing loot into an NFT because it creates scarcity problems, balance problems, breaks the economies of the game, invents new economies that are kind of destined to be broken, and then these just absurd, ideas that, you can take your loot from one game and use it across a whole network of games. Like, it is logistically impossible to do that, and like these are the kind of pitches from crypto dudes who just get utterly, destroyed because they clearly know nothing about game development, and you have many, many threads from actual game developers talking about the complete infeasibility of this, like spending that much work designing an item for such a small group of people and then expecting it to work across other games. Like, I don't know if these people understand how ridiculous it sounds when they talk about like bringing your Valorant skin into Minecraft and Call of Duty and League of Legends. Like, it is just utterly nonsense. Like, it just absolutely makes no sense. So that kind of thing, like if that keeps getting announced, I can any existing series or big upcoming game that announces NFTs in whatever fashion is going to get obliterated on social, on whatever. It'll cost them tons in earned press. They will be roasted by fans. They will be roasted by the press. They will be destroyed, and almost certainly they'll either have to cancel whatever they're planning, or they will have to introduce it and then just let it sputter out and die, like is what's happening with the Ubisoft stuff. So like it is hard for me to imagine after the reception NFTs have gotten so far that you're just, even with something like Square Enix, like, okay, Square Enix is going to put NFTs into what? Outriders, Avengers? That would be awful, and the communities would rebel, and it would run into all the problems I said already. Final Fantasy, either the MMO or 16 would get, just demolished by fans and would severely dampen, any enthusiasm for those games, even if it was a minor addition. Like, so when Square Enix talks about the blockchain, like, I can see them developing maybe blockchain first games from scratch to see if that works, like a Final Fantasy blockchain game that is for mobile and works with very, very basic assets and is like Axie Infinity, but you reskin it with Final Fantasy characters or something. That is what I see as being the more likely kind of plan for a company like Square Enix going forward in this new era, given how like just jamming in NFTs to existing games is not going to fly with people. The third option, again, I just keep coming back to Ultimate Team. I 100% guarantee you EA is going to try to do something with all of their sports Ultimate Teams. I am not involved enough in that scene to like fully understand if that would work or not. Like, I'm leaning toward no, and yet I know that this scene is, it's billions and billions of revenue for EA over the years, and these people are, it's pay to win in many aspects in terms of like collecting these teams that are ultimately, going to make your entire squad better, and people have paid so much money for those, and that's been something that's been like a collection system that is already a lot pay to win, and players have proven they're going to spend tons of money on it. So yeah, I can see potentially, NFT and blockchain integration there and forming some sort of Ultimate Team token market thing. They're absolutely going to try it. I'm less confident that would work, even if on the surface it makes more sense than like NFT loot. But that is 100% something they're going to try. It's just that I can't think of many other examples where that would work. I suppose like any game that has an auction house could theoretically try to put it on the blockchain, but it's hard for me to imagine, even the existing auction houses that are like functional now benefiting in some way or appeasing their player base with promises of quote true digital ownership and like the ability to take your items anywhere, which can't happen. So I don't see ideas like that panning out. So it seems to be like a very narrow selection of games where this could somehow work in terms of, an existing collection-based system. But I think we're going to see a few more attempts, a few more giant flameouts, and then maybe a couple of these stick, if like Ultimate Team or something like that. I think the main driving force will be people trying to make blockchain games from scratch, where NFT integration there is at least more natural. Like, again, I don't know if anyone will care about these games or play them, or if Square makes a Final Fantasy blockchain game, is that going to attract a bunch of crypto bros trying to make money from it, or is it going to attract a bunch of really hardcore Final Fantasy fans? I have my guess as to which market that is going to appeal to more. So needless to say, I am very not optimistic about the future of NFTs in games. Generally speaking, I think the whole NFT idea is heading towards a big bubble burst. The main form of NFTs we see now are all these, these animated JPEGs of the monkeys and the lions and whatever, like all infinite amounts of these often extremely low quality artworks that are just being passed back and forth between people or among the people themselves to boost their value. Cannot see that going on forever. There's too much supply of that stuff. Anyone can mint a bazillion copies of crappy, AI generated art. And it's going to become too saturated and unsustainable. And I am definitely predicting a massive crash there. Crypto itself, I'm not predicting something similar with that. Like, crypto as a concept is more kind of entrenched at this point, where like, no, I don't think Bitcoin's going to go to zero or Ethereum's going to just evaporate or whatever. Like, that's a longer term kind of economic thing that is going to kind of continue for the indefinite future, for sure. And sure, I could see someday, an online game where you're paying for things in Bitcoin or things like that. That may already exist for all I know. Some games may accept Bitcoin now. I'm not sure. But that to me is not really what we're talking about here. It's just, we're talking about things that are like entirely based on the blockchain, which is supposed to provide some sort of benefit to gamers that is exceptionally hard to explain because it doesn't really exist. Or this idea of putting blockchain assets in non-blockchain games, which is like really trying to jam a square peg in a round hole there, and is not proven at all to be anything, approaching what gamers want, or even what the developers that are being forced to make these things want. And it's just very unhealthy in general, and has been kind of roundly rejected to date. We'll see what happens next. We are going to keep seeing announcements like this, coming up. It's just a matter of how poorly conceived they will be, or if anyone will figure out anything that makes some remote amount of sense to kind of your average core gamer in a way that gets people interested in this. It is very hard for me to see that, short of like someone creating a truly engaging, entertaining, fun blockchain-based game from scratch. Maybe that could be the jumping off point, but I have not seen anything even close to that, even in the kind of the concepts that are coming up. And we just seem miles and miles away from something where that's possible. And it always seems like the economic motivating factor of making a token, increasing the token's value, getting everyone paid is going to take priority over fun, over longevity, over gameplay, over everything that makes people like games in the first place. So those are kind of my condensed thoughts in this actually kind of long video about it. But there's always going to be a lot to say about this throughout the whole year. I'll probably circle back to this. But anyway, those are my thoughts as they stand right now. And thanks for watching. I will talk to you guys soon. Take care.